The air in Aotearoa carries whispers of an ancient journey, a migration so remarkable that it rewrote human history. But hidden within the DNA of the Maori lies a legacy even more astonishing, a story encoded in their very blood. This isn't just about ancestry. It's about survival, navigation, and a connection that spans across vast oceans. What if the very foundation of Maori origins challenges everything we thought we knew? For centuries, scholars debated whether the arrival of Maori in Aotearoa was an accident or a carefully planned voyage. Some believed the islands were discovered by chance, a few canoes lost in a storm, while others argued that deliberate exploration brought them here. But today, cutting-edge DNA technology is revealing something incredible. Evidence of a meticulously orchestrated journey, guided by the stars and fueled by the knowledge passed down through generations. The mitochondrial DNA of Maori tells us a story of movement, a direct link to their Polynesian ancestors who set sail from the islands of the Pacific. This wasn't a random drift across the ocean. The genetics prove that at least 50 to 100 Polynesian women were among the first settlers of Aotearoa. That number is too large to be explained by accidental drift. It means that these voyages were intentional, carrying entire families, their traditions, and a vision for the future. Oral histories, often dismissed as myth, now align perfectly with modern science. But there's something even more fascinating. While Maori maternal ancestry is firmly Polynesian, the paternal lineage reveals a different picture. The Y chromosome data shows connections not just to Polynesia, but to Melanesia, Indonesia, and even traces of European ancestry. This suggests a more complex history, one where Maori ancestors interacted with different cultures long before European contact. Could this mean that early Polynesians had already established trade and cultural exchanges across vast distances? The DNA evidence says yes. And then there's the language. Linguists have traced Maori dialects back to Taiwan, part of the Great Austronesian expansion that began thousands of years ago. The genetic markers found in Maori today mirror this journey, moving from Southeast Asia through Melanesia into Central Polynesia, and finally reaching Aotearoa. Every genetic mutation, every haplotype, is like a timestamp, proving that the journey was not just one of survival, but of incredible innovation. The double-hulled waka, the sophisticated celestial navigation, the deep understanding of ocean currents, all of it points to a civilization that mastered the sea in ways we are only beginning to understand. And modern reconstructions of these voyages, using traditional methods, have confirmed what DNA now proves. The Maori did not stumble upon these lands. They arrived with purpose, with direction, and with the knowledge that they could always return if needed. Yet, with all this knowledge, one question remains. How much more is hidden within Maori DNA? Could there be lost connections yet to be uncovered, linking them to ancient civilizations we never imagined? The answers are waiting, encoded in the bloodlines that have withstood time, conquest, and change. The land of Aotearoa is more than just a place. It's a living record of an epic human journey, one written in the DNA of its people. But what if hidden within that DNA is a story even more extraordinary than we ever imagined? A legacy that challenges old myths, rewrites history, and proves that the Maori were not just explorers, but master navigators who left nothing to chance. For decades, the origins of Maori ancestors were debated. Some believed they came from an unknown land, separate from other Polynesian cultures. Others insisted their arrival was accidental, driven by storms and sheer luck. But today, DNA tells a different story, a story of deliberate migration, guided by knowledge, precision, and a vision that stretched across thousands of miles. Mitochondrial DNA, passed down through generations of Maori women, reveals a direct link to Polynesia. But what's truly fascinating is how this genetic trail moves backward in time, tracing a path that leads beyond the Pacific to Taiwan. Thousands of years ago, the ancestors of the Maori began their journey, spreading out from Southeast Asia, navigating through the islands of the Pacific with unparalleled skill. Each generation carried the genetic blueprint of those before them, leaving behind clues that scientists are only now beginning to decipher. But there's another layer to this story. The Y chromosome, passed from father to son, reveals something unexpected. Connections not just to Polynesia, but to Melanesia, Indonesia, and even European ancestry. This suggests that Maori ancestors didn't just settle in new lands. They interacted, traded, and possibly even intermarried with other cultures long before Europeans officially arrived. The idea that Polynesians existed in isolation, disconnected from the wider world, is now being shattered by DNA evidence. And then, there's the question of how they got here. Archaeological discoveries show that Maori ancestors built double-hulled waka capable of crossing vast oceans. These were not primitive rafts, but sophisticated vessels designed for exploration, trade, and survival. And the knowledge of how to navigate them, it was passed down through generations, encoded in the stars, the winds, and the ocean currents. This was not guesswork, it was science, practiced long before the Western world even understood the concept. Some skeptics still argue that such voyages were impossible, but modern reconstructions have proven otherwise. In recent years, navigators using only traditional Polynesian methods have successfully traveled thousands of miles, retracing the very routes their ancestors once took. And with every journey, the DNA evidence becomes clearer. Maori did not arrive in Aotearoa by accident. They came with purpose, with skill, and with a deep understanding of the ocean that few civilizations in history have ever matched. Yet, for all that we have uncovered, so many questions remain. How many more untold stories lie hidden in the genetic code of the Maori? Could there be connections to civilizations we've never even considered? The answers are there, waiting to be found, locked within the very blood of a people who crossed the greatest expanse of water on Earth and made it their home. For centuries, the Maori people have preserved their history through stories, songs, and traditions. But now science is uncovering another kind of record, one that has been hidden within their very DNA for thousands of years. A record that reveals not only where their ancestors came from, but also how they achieved one of the greatest feats of human exploration. The story of the Maori begins long before they set foot on the shores of Aotearoa. Their genetic roots stretch back across the vast Pacific, through the islands of Polynesia, and even further to the ancient lands of Southeast Asia. Every strand of their DNA carries the echoes of these migrations, marking each step of their journey with genetic clues that scientists are only now beginning to decode. One of the most astonishing discoveries comes from mitochondrial DNA, passed down exclusively from mother to child. This genetic marker shows a clear and direct link between the Maori and their Polynesian ancestors. It proves beyond doubt that their arrival in Aotearoa was not the result of chance, but the final chapter in a much longer voyage that began thousands of years earlier. But the real question is, how did they do it? How did they cross the largest ocean on Earth with no maps, no compasses, and no modern technology? The answer lies in a mastery of the natural world that few other civilizations have ever achieved. The Maori, like their Polynesian ancestors, were expert navigators. They read the stars like a map, using constellations to set their course. They studied the movement of ocean currents and the flight patterns of birds to guide them to land. They even understood how cloud formations could signal the presence of distant islands long before they were visible on the horizon. This knowledge was not written in books. It was memorized, passed down through generations, and perfected over centuries. But genetics has revealed an even deeper layer to this story. While Maori maternal ancestry is firmly Polynesian, the Y chromosome, passed from father to son, tells a more complex tale. It shows genetic links not only to Polynesia, but also to Melanesia and even Indonesia. This suggests that, along the way, Maori ancestors may have interacted, traded, or even intermarried with other cultures, absorbing new knowledge and skills that helped them survive their incredible journey. And then there's the question of why. Why did the ancestors of the Maori leave their homes and push further and further into the unknown? Was it necessity, driven by resource shortages or conflicts? Or was it curiosity, a relentless human desire to explore what lies beyond the horizon? DNA evidence suggests that these migrations were not desperate escapes, but carefully planned expansions. The Polynesians, including the ancestors of the Maori, were pioneers in every sense of the word, moving deliberately from island to island, each time carrying with them the knowledge of their ancestors. Modern reconstructions of these voyages have confirmed what DNA and oral history have long suggested. These journeys were no accident. In recent years, Traditional navigators have successfully retraced ancient routes using nothing but the stars and ocean currents, proving that the Maori and their Polynesian ancestors had an understanding of the sea that rivaled even the greatest maritime civilizations in history. Yet, even with all that we have uncovered, so many mysteries remain. Could there still be undiscovered genetic links connecting the Maori to ancient civilizations we never expected? What other secrets are locked within their DNA, waiting to be revealed? The answers are out there, hidden in the bloodlines of a people who defied the limits of the known world and made the most isolated land on Earth their home. For generations, the Maori have told stories of their ancestors, of brave navigators who crossed vast oceans to reach Aotearoa. These legends, passed down through oral tradition, speak of epic journeys, celestial guidance, and powerful waka cutting through the waves. But what if the key to proving these stories true has been hidden within their DNA all along? Modern genetic research has uncovered something extraordinary. The mitochondrial DNA of Maori, inherited exclusively from mothers, creates an unbroken lineage that leads back to the islands of Polynesia. But the story doesn't stop there. By tracing the subtle genetic mutations that occurred over time, scientists have been able to map the exact path their ancestors took, moving from island to island, across thousands of miles, until they finally reached the distant shores of New Zealand. Yet there is something even more intriguing hidden within Maori DNA. While maternal ancestry firmly connects them to Polynesia, the Y chromosome, the genetic marker passed from father to son, tells a different story. It reveals unexpected connections to Melanesia and Southeast Asia, raising the possibility that Maori ancestors encountered, traded with, and perhaps even merged with other cultures long before European contact. This genetic evidence aligns with archaeological findings that suggest the first settlers of Aotearoa brought with them knowledge and technologies influenced by other Pacific civilizations. But how did they achieve such an incredible feat of navigation? Some skeptics once argued that early Polynesians, including Maori ancestors, lacked the technology to make such journeys intentionally. That theory has now been shattered. DNA evidence, combined with experimental voyages using traditional Polynesian navigation techniques, proves that these migrations were not accidents. They were deliberate, calculated, and based on an astonishingly advanced understanding of the ocean. Unlike European explorers who relied on instruments, Maori navigators used the world around them as their guide. They memorized the movement of the stars, the direction of the wind, and the patterns of the waves. They could detect islands beyond the horizon by observing the way clouds formed over land or how birds behaved as they moved between feeding grounds. This knowledge, encoded in tradition and refined over generations, allowed them to travel immense distances with precision. Yet, for all we now understand, many mysteries remain. One of the most fascinating questions is how much Maori DNA might still be hiding. Could there be undiscovered genetic markers linking them to places we never expected? Could there be ancient connections waiting to be uncovered? Proof of voyages beyond even the Pacific? The answers lie within the very code of life itself, waiting to be revealed by the next breakthrough in genetic research. One thing is certain. The Maori legacy is not just one of exploration but of mastery over the natural world. Their journey was not a stroke of luck but a testament to intelligence, resilience, and an indomitable spirit. Their DNA carries a story that challenges old myths, reshapes history, and proves that long before the age of modern technology, there were those who could cross the greatest ocean on Earth, not as wanderers but as pioneers. The Maori people have always known where they came from. Their oral histories, their songs, and their traditions tell of voyages across the Pacific, of waka carrying their ancestors to the shores of Aotearoa. But for centuries, the Western world dismissed these accounts as myth, as legend, as stories too grand to be real. Now, DNA is proving what the Maori have always known. Their journey was intentional, their navigation precise, and their legacy far greater than anyone imagined. Through the science of genetics, we can now trace the path of Maori ancestors with stunning accuracy. Their mitochondrial DNA, inherited from mother to child, carries the unmistakable signature of Polynesian lineage. It tells us that their ancestors left the Central Pacific, voyaging from islands like Samoa and Tonga, then pushing further and further south, until they reached the last great landmass in the Pacific, Aotearoa. But what's even more fascinating is what the Y chromosome reveals. Unlike mitochondrial DNA, which follows the maternal line, the Y chromosome is passed from father to son. And while Maori maternal ancestry is undeniably Polynesian, their paternal lineage tells a more complex story. The Y chromosome data links them not only to Polynesia, but also to Melanesia, Indonesia, and even traces of European ancestry. This suggests that Maori ancestors didn't just sail through the Pacific, they interacted with other cultures, absorbing knowledge, technologies, and traditions along the way. This blending of influences is written in their genes, waiting for scientists to decode its full story. But the true marvel is not just where they came from, it's how they got there. The vast Pacific Ocean is the largest and most treacherous expanse of water on Earth. And yet, the ancestors of the Maori crossed it without compasses, without maps, without modern navigation tools. The answer lies in a mastery of the natural world, so advanced that modern science is still working to fully understand it. Maori navigators, like their Polynesian cousins, used the stars to guide them. They memorized the rising and setting points of key constellations, tracking their movement across the sky. They studied the behavior of ocean swells, knowing that different wave patterns could indicate the presence of land, even hundreds of kilometers away. They watched birds, following their flight paths to find distant islands. These techniques were not guesswork. They were the product of centuries of careful observation and refinement, passed down through generations in an unbroken chain of knowledge. Western historians once argued that such voyages were impossible, but time and again, modern experiments have proven them wrong. In the last few decades, expert navigators have successfully retraced ancient Polynesian routes using only traditional methods. No GPS, no maps, just the wisdom of their ancestors. Each time they succeed, they reinforce what Maori DNA has already shown. These migrations were not accidents. They were planned, executed with skill, and carried out by some of the greatest navigators the world has ever seen. But even now, mysteries remain. Could there be lost chapters in the Maori story still waiting to be uncovered? Could their DNA hold evidence of voyages even further than we ever imagined? As science advances, the answers may finally be within reach. One thing is clear: the Maori journey is not just a tale of survival. It is a story of brilliance, of courage, and of an unbreakable connection to the ocean. Their DNA carries the proof of a legacy that refuses to be forgotten. And as more discoveries emerge, the world will finally understand what the Maori have always known. Their ancestors were not just explorers. They were pioneers of the greatest ocean on Earth. For centuries, the Maori people have carried their history in their stories, their songs, and their traditions. But now their DNA is revealing an even deeper layer of that history, one that confirms their ancestors were not only master navigators, but also key players in one of the greatest human migrations of all time. What if the secrets of their journey have been encoded in their very blood, waiting for science to uncover them? The story of Maori origins begins thousands of years ago, in the heart of the Pacific. Genetic research has now traced their ancestral roots back to Taiwan, where the first Austronesian voyagers set sail. Over generations, these pioneers moved southward, reaching the islands of the Philippines, then venturing further into the open ocean. Each migration left a genetic fingerprint, marking the path of a civilization that expanded across the Pacific with purpose and skill. Eventually, their descendants became the Polynesians, explorers who mastered the waves and carried their culture across thousands of miles. Mitochondrial DNA, passed down from mothers to their children, proves that Maori are directly linked to these ancient voyagers. Their genetic code matches that of Polynesian populations across the Pacific, showing a clear and deliberate migration from island to island, leading ultimately to Aotearoa. But what's even more intriguing is what the Y chromosome tells us. While Maori maternal ancestry is firmly Polynesian, their paternal lineage reveals a more complex journey. DNA evidence connects Maori ancestors not only to other Polynesians, but also to Melanesian and Southeast Asian populations. This suggests that along the way, they didn't just travel, they interacted, exchanged knowledge, and possibly even intermarried with different cultures. Could this explain the extraordinary navigation skills they developed? Did these connections give them an edge, allowing them to cross the Pacific in ways no other civilization had before? The answer lies in the way they traveled. Western historians once believed that Polynesian expansion was accidental, that the people who became the Maori arrived in New Zealand by sheer luck. But now we know better. Modern DNA research, combined with experimental archaeology, proves that these voyages were intentional. Polynesians, including Maori ancestors, used sophisticated double-hulled waka designed for long-distance travel. These vessels, along with advanced knowledge of the stars, ocean currents, and bird migrations, allowed them to explore the Pacific in a way that no other ancient civilization could. And the evidence doesn't stop there. In recent years, navigators using only traditional Polynesian methods have successfully sailed across the Pacific, retracing the routes their ancestors once took. These voyages, guided solely by the stars and the sea, confirm what Maori oral history has always said. Their ancestors were not aimless wanderers. They were skilled seafarers who understood the ocean better than anyone else. Yet, even with all this knowledge, there are still unanswered questions. Could Maori DNA hold even more secrets? Could there be evidence of contact with other civilizations, perhaps even ones we haven't considered? As genetic research advances, new discoveries may continue to reshape what we know about Maori history. But one thing is already clear. The Maori are part of one of the most extraordinary stories in human history. Their DNA carries the proof of a journey that defied the odds, a voyage that covered more of the world than most civilizations ever dared to explore. And as science continues to decode their genetic past, the world will finally recognize what the Maori have always known. Their ancestors were among the greatest navigators to ever walk the earth. The story of the Maori is written in more than just history books or ancient carvings. It's encoded in their very DNA, waiting to be uncovered. For centuries, Western scholars debated how the Maori arrived in Aotearoa. Were they lost explorers, carried by the winds? Or were they master navigators, deliberately seeking out new lands? Today, science is proving what Maori oral history has always known. Their ancestors were among the greatest explorers the world has ever seen. DNA evidence has revealed something remarkable. Mitochondrial DNA, passed from mother to child, traces a direct lineage from the Maori to their Polynesian ancestors. But this connection doesn't just stop in the Pacific. It extends much further back, to Taiwan, where the first Austronesian voyagers began their migration thousands of years ago. From there, their descendants spread across Southeast Asia, navigating their way through the Philippines, Melanesia, and eventually reaching the Central Pacific, where they became the Polynesians. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. While maternal DNA links Maori to Polynesia, the Y chromosome, the genetic material passed from father to son, reveals a far more complex history. Maori male ancestry carries markers not only from Polynesia, but also from Melanesia, Indonesia, and even traces of European lineage. This means that long before European explorers arrived in the Pacific, Maori ancestors were already engaging with other cultures, absorbing new knowledge, and blending traditions that would shape their identity. This genetic evidence supports what Maori oral traditions have always maintained. Their ancestors were not isolated, but part of a vast network of Pacific explorers. They traveled intentionally, in double-hulled waka designed for long ocean voyages, guided by the stars, ocean currents, and the natural world around them. They understood the sea in ways that modern science is only beginning to appreciate. Western historians once doubted that such voyages were possible. But today, modern Polynesian navigators have proven otherwise. Using only traditional methods, without maps or compasses, they have successfully retraced the ancient routes of their ancestors, confirming that the knowledge of the Maori was not only real, but extraordinarily advanced. Yet the discoveries don't end here. There are still many unanswered questions, hidden connections, undiscovered migrations, and genetic markers that may one day reveal even more about where the Maori came from and who they encountered along the way. Could their DNA hold evidence of even earlier voyages, ones that extend beyond the Pacific? What is clear is that Maori DNA tells a story of brilliance, resilience, and mastery of the ocean. It is a living testament to their ancestors' ingenuity, a proof that they were not just settlers, but pioneers of the world's greatest ocean. And as science continues to decode their genetic history, one thing is certain: the legacy of Maori exploration is far from fully told. For generations, the Maori have passed down their history through oral traditions, stories of great voyages, ancestors who crossed vast oceans, and a deep connection to the natural world. But now, modern science is revealing a different kind of history, one that has been preserved in their very DNA. It turns out the legends were true, and the story written in Maori bloodlines is even more extraordinary than anyone imagined. Genetic research has confirmed that Maori ancestors were part of the Great Polynesian Migration, a journey that began thousands of years ago in Taiwan. Their mitochondrial DNA, inherited exclusively from mothers, provides an unbroken link to the early Austronesian voyagers who first set sail across the Pacific. This migration wasn't random. It followed a pattern, each new settlement carefully chosen, each voyage backed by knowledge passed down through generations. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. While maternal DNA tells a clear Polynesian story, the Y chromosome, passed from father to son, reveals something more complex. Maori men carry genetic markers not only from Polynesia, but also from Melanesia and Southeast Asia, indicating that their ancestors encountered and integrated with different populations along their journey. This blending of lineages suggests a vast network of interaction where knowledge, culture, and even genetic heritage were shared between ancient seafaring civilizations. This discovery supports what Maori oral histories have long claimed, that their ancestors were not simply drifting across the ocean, but were engaged in deliberate exploration and migration. The double-hulled waka that carried them to Aotearoa were not crude rafts, but advanced seafaring vessels capable of tacking against the wind, allowing for two-way voyages. This means Maori ancestors could explore new lands, return home, and even maintain long-distance connections across the Pacific. For centuries, Western historians doubted these accounts. Many believed that such voyages were impossible with the technology available at the time, but modern experiments have proven them wrong. In recent years, skilled Polynesian navigators have successfully completed trans-Pacific journeys using only traditional techniques. No GPS, no maps, just the same knowledge their ancestors once relied on. These voyages, combined with DNA evidence, confirm that the Maori did not arrive in Aotearoa by accident. They came with purpose, with direction, and with the certainty that they would find land. Yet, even with all these discoveries, the full story of Maori ancestry is still being written. Could their DNA hold even more secrets? Could there be undiscovered genetic links that reveal even earlier migrations, perhaps to places we never expected? As science advances, we may one day unlock even more of the hidden history encoded in Maori bloodlines. One thing is certain: MāoriDNA is more than just a record of ancestry. It is a testament to their ancestors' brilliance, resilience, and unparalleled mastery of the ocean. It proves that they were not just survivors, but pioneers who pushed the boundaries of human exploration. Their legacy, written in their very genes, is undeniable. And as we continue to unravel the mysteries of the past, the world is finally beginning to understand what Maori have always known. Their history is not just remarkable, it is legendary. For centuries, the origins of the Maori have been debated. Were they castaways, lost at sea, stumbling upon Aotearoa by chance? Or were they deliberate explorers, armed with knowledge far ahead of their time? Today, thanks to cutting-edge DNA research, we have an answer. One that confirms what Maori oral history has always said. Their journey was no accident. It was a carefully planned migration, one of the most extraordinary feats of human exploration ever recorded. Scientists have traced Maori ancestry through mitochondrial DNA, passed down through the maternal line. This genetic fingerprint reveals an unbroken connection to Polynesian voyagers who navigated across the Pacific, settling island after island in a pattern that stretched back thousands of years. But the real breakthrough comes from the Y chromosome, inherited from father to son. This tells a different story, one of interactions, exchanges, and genetic blending with populations from Melanesia and Southeast Asia. This means the ancestors of the Maori weren't isolated travelers. They were part of a complex web of cultural and genetic exchange. They took knowledge from different seafaring peoples, refining their techniques until they became the ultimate navigators of the Pacific. Their waka were not simple canoes but sophisticated double-hulled vessels, built for long-distance voyages and capable of returning home. The very structure of these boats suggests one thing. Maori ancestors didn't just sail in one direction. They knew where they were going. For a long time, Western historians dismissed these ideas. They couldn't believe that a people without metal tools or written maps could cross thousands of miles of open ocean with such precision. But modern science has shattered that misconception. Polynesian navigators, using only traditional techniques, have successfully recreated these voyages in recent years, proving beyond doubt that such feats were possible. DNA evidence supports this, showing that migration was not a single event, but a series of deliberate voyages, each one reinforcing the Maori connection to the vast Pacific network. But here's the real question. What else could Maori DNA reveal? Could there be evidence of even earlier migrations, long before the known Polynesian expansion? Are there lost connections to civilizations we never imagined? As technology advances, scientists are uncovering new layers of genetic history, each one bringing us closer to understanding the full scope of the Maori journey. One thing is certain, Maori DNA is more than just a record of the past. It is proof of an extraordinary legacy, of a people who defied the limits of their world and mastered the greatest ocean on Earth. Their story is not just about survival. It is about brilliance, resilience, and an unbreakable connection to the sea. And as science continues to uncover the secrets hidden in their genes, the world is finally realizing what the Maori have always known. Their history is not one of myth. It is one of greatness. For centuries, the Maori people have held a deep connection to their ancestors, passing down knowledge through oral traditions, art, and song. But now, modern science is uncovering another layer of that history, one written not in words, but in DNA. And what it reveals is something astonishing. Proof that Maori ancestors were not just skilled explorers, but participants in one of the most extraordinary human migrations in history. Genetic studies have traced Maori ancestry back through Polynesia, revealing a direct link to the great Austronesian expansion that began thousands of years ago in Taiwan. Mitochondrial DNA, passed from mother to child, confirms that Maori ancestors followed a deliberate path, first settling in the Philippines, then Melanesia, before launching into the vast Pacific. At each stage, they adapted, learned, and mastered the art of long-distance navigation. But the story doesn't stop there. While maternal DNA tells a clear Polynesian story, the Y chromosome, the genetic material passed from father to son, shows something far more complex. Maori male ancestry contains traces of Melanesian and Southeast Asian influences, suggesting their ancestors didn't just migrate. They interacted, traded, and possibly even intermarried with different cultures along their route. These findings rewrite the old narrative of isolation and prove that early Polynesians were deeply connected to the wider Pacific world. For years, skeptics doubted that Maori ancestors could have intentionally crossed thousands of miles of open ocean. But today, both DNA and experimental archaeology confirm that these voyages were no accident. Traditional Polynesian navigators, using nothing but their ancestral knowledge of the stars, ocean currents, and bird migrations, have successfully recreated the routes their ancestors once took. Their journeys prove that the Maori did not stumble upon Aotearoa by chance. They arrived with purpose, with skill, and with a deep understanding of the sea. Yet, even with these discoveries, many questions remain. Could Maori DNA reveal even older connections? Could there be genetic links to lost migrations, to civilizations we never imagined Polynesians had reached? As technology advances, scientists are unlocking new secrets hidden in the genetic code, and with each breakthrough, the story of Maori origins becomes even more remarkable. One thing is certain, Maori DNA is not just a record of ancestry. It is proof of an incredible journey, of a people who conquered the largest ocean on Earth, not with compasses or written maps, but with knowledge, courage, and an unbreakable bond with the natural world. And as science continues to uncover more of their story, one truth becomes undeniable. The Maori legacy is not just one of survival. It is one of mastery, of resilience, and of exploration on a scale the world is only now beginning to fully understand. For centuries, The Maori people have carried the stories of their ancestors, tales of fearless explorers who journeyed across the vast Pacific, guided only by the stars, the winds, and the rhythms of the ocean. These stories, passed down through generations, were once dismissed as legend. But now, science has proven what Maori have always known. Their ancestors were pioneers, their voyages were deliberate, and their mastery of the ocean rivaled that of any civilization in history. DNA has unlocked the truth, revealing an unbroken lineage that stretches back thousands of years. Mitochondrial DNA proves that Maori are part of the Great Polynesian expansion, tracing their origins to the Austronesian voyagers who set sail from Taiwan, moved through Southeast Asia, and then embarked on one of the greatest human migrations ever undertaken. Their path led them to Samoa, Tonga, and the Central Pacific, before finally reaching the distant shores of Aotearoa. But the most fascinating discoveries lie in the Y chromosome, which tells a more complex story. While maternal DNA confirms their Polynesian heritage, Maori male ancestry also carries genetic traces from Melanesia and even Southeast Asia. This means that their ancestors were not just travelers, they were connectors, absorbing knowledge, skills, and even genetic influences from the diverse peoples they encountered along the way. This blending of cultures may explain the unmatched seafaring abilities that allowed them to navigate with precision across thousands of miles of open ocean. For decades, Western historians doubted that early Polynesians had the technology to make such intentional voyages. But modern Polynesian navigators have shattered that misconception, successfully retracing ancient migration routes using only traditional techniques. Their voyages prove beyond doubt that the Maori ancestors were not castaways. They were skilled explorers, capable of reading the stars, the waves, and the winds with an understanding that modern science is only beginning to comprehend. Yet, even with all that has been uncovered, mysteries still remain. Could Maori DNA hold evidence of even earlier migrations? Could there be genetic links to civilizations that history has overlooked? As scientific advancements continue, each discovery brings us closer to understanding the full scope of their journey, a journey that defied the limits of the known world and reshaped human history. One thing is certain, Maori DNA is more than just a record of the past. It is proof of an extraordinary legacy, a testament to resilience, intelligence, and an unbreakable bond with the sea. Their ancestors were not just survivors. They were innovators, navigators, and visionaries who transformed the Pacific into a vast highway of exploration. And now, as science finally catches up with the knowledge held in Maori traditions, the world is beginning to recognize the truth. Maori history is not just remarkable, it is legendary.